Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Glad to have you. This one will be a little fun today, so you're going to want to stick around for this one. You can see that's a big Pondo pine going up on the mill right there, about 32 to 34 inches in diameter. It's a good sized log. It's not real long, but this is a big one, and I am going to mess up on this log in prime fashion. So you're going to want to stick around, see what I do, and I'll clue you in as we go. So to start off with, I've mentioned in previous videos that when you've got no bark on the log and you're working on a gravel surface, you're going to want to rub that off, make sure there's no rock embedded in the log. And so that's what I was doing there, just rubbing that off, making sure that there's no rocks embedded in the log. And then, we're going to do the usual. Go down to the middle, check the height there. And I'm just checking the average height of the log so that I know what is a good starting point. If I had a laser, which I don't, it might be easier to see that. But because I don't, that's what I've got to do. You'll also notice that after I first got that log up on the deck, I kind of checked things out and realized it was too wide for me to take that first cap cut. So you'll notice that my side supports are down about 45 degrees. That's so that I can push the log over the side support so that I can get the widest cut that I can, even on this cap cut. This is a big fat pine log, so I've got to maximize that cutting width as much as possible. I could have pushed it over a little bit more, but I really didn't need to. So I went ahead, took that cap cut, took a flitch cut. Now we're going to come back and you'll see when I lift those side supports, watch them lift, there you go. That log actually moves. It's because it was sitting over those. Now I'm going to roll it up. And here is one of the big challenges with a log that's this big. And that is that when you roll it up 90 degrees to get it onto those side supports, you'll notice that flat surface isn't really hitting those side supports very well. So you've really got to pay attention and make sure you've got that 90 degrees there. You will see me later pull out a square just to double check things. But I managed to get it nice and square as it was. Now, if I'd have rolled it 180 degrees here, I would have had an even wider cut that I would have had to make that I couldn't have done. So rolling at 90 saved me here. Now, look what I did right there. Can you see it? Yep, folks, I'm human and I make mistakes. So if you see the mistake, don't tell anybody just yet. Hold off a little bit, folks. Let's see how long it takes me to figure this out. And I think this is a good message right here. Just because you've been running a sawmill for a while, and I've been running a band sawmill for 11 years. I guess over 11 years now. Doesn't mean you don't make mistakes. We're all human. So, anyway, get the chainsaw out. Got to whittle it down a little bit. And again, this is a big log. It's just too wide. Now that it's flat against those side supports, my maximum cut at this point is 24 inches. And really, I would say 23 3/4 inches. So I just wanted to make sure that on that butt end of the log, I was going to be able to pass the log right there. That's all I was doing, whittling down the end a little bit, make sure that my band guide wheel would pass that edge of the log so that I could take that cut off. We'll just throw that over on the side supports and we'll mill that down later. That's what I refer to as a flitch. Okay, so now I've got 3 nice flat sides. I roll it up again. And I'm still being human. Can you see it? Got it rolled up. All right. Take the top off now. And, I'm chuckling because you're hours into a job. Thousands of board feet in. You're doing the same thing you do every time. But I must admit that on these big logs, if I'm going to miss something, it always seems to be on the big ones. And I think that's just because you can't always see the other end of the mill, can't see what you forgot, and nobody else realizes what you've done. So away I go. Knocking down some flitch cuts, getting it down to the height that I want so that I can take some 6x out of it. And look at that big fat. That's a big fat 2x right there. All right, we drop her 6 inches and take a cut. Now, this 6-inch beam, if you want or can't, is going to be fine. It's 6 inches deep from end to end. No worries there. It's got a bit of a taper the other way, but we'll take that out. That's not an issue. So we'll kick that off the mill, and I just use the log clamp, pull it up on the inside, lift it up as high as I can, let that cant slide off the top, and now we're going to roll this guy up, and we're going to square it up a bit. So, didn't want to roll for me, so we grab that log right cant hook and just roll her up. All right, here we go. Take the top off. I'm still being human. I have to admit, it's kind of embarrassing, folks. Because it takes me a while to figure it out. Even, I think, when you get to the point where you're like, oh, I did this wrong, you still sometimes don't fix it all. So that's a hint. Okay, take the top off. Now I'm doing good. I got everything where I want it. I have a cant that I want to make 12 1/8 inch deep so that I can split it to get 2 6x out of it. So we're just taking some off the top. We can take these 2x off or 1x off and just cut them down afterwards. We call those flitches. They've got wane on both sides. All right, we're getting down there. Drop her down to 6 inches off the deck. And that's not good, folks. It's not good at all. Can you tell me why? Put it down in the comments below. Tell me what I did here. Tell me why I'm chuckling a little bit, why I'm just a little bit embarrassed by what's going on. Here I am making YouTube videos showing you how to do this kind of stuff. And yes, folks, I mess up. So hopefully by my mess ups, you can learn not to do it. So put it in the comments. Let me know what you think. What did I do wrong there? It's kind of a big mistake. All right. And then look. Oh, darn it. Yes, folks, I left that toe board up. But here's the thing. Right there, I went down to the far end and I said, okay, I've got a bit of a wedge here. I need to cut this out. So I checked the far end, came back to the near end, dropped the head, and down we go. Right? We'll take that out. We no longer have a wedge. All right. Nice. It's same height, end to end, all is well, right? Let's knock it down. Yeah, no. There's a problem here. That outside 6-inch cant is no longer a 6-inch cant. That outside cant might be 6 inches at the near end, but it's a little bit around 5 at the far end. And so every 2x that came off the right side, as you look at it from when I enter these two cants, every single one of those 2x's has to be edged down to either a 2x5 or a 2x4. It couldn't even be a dimensional 2x6, which would be 1.5 inches by 5.5. It would have to be 1.5 inches by 5 or 2x5, depending on what he wants to do with it. So unfortunately, because I missed that whole right side cant was actually a bit of a wedge. And I guess the message here is, if you do this, which trust me, if you run a sawmill, you're probably going to do it sooner or later. You got to realize I've wedged it both directions, because the way you should always do this, and it's what I preach, frankly, when you get the log up on the deck and you center the pith and you use one of those toe boards to center the pith, that toe board should only stay up for 2 rolls. So you make your cap cut and then you roll it 90 degrees into the side support. That's roll 1, and you leave that toe board alone. Then you make your next cap cut, maybe a flitch cut, and then you roll it 90 degrees again and drop the toe board. if you don't, and you do what I did, and you leave that toe board up by accident, you're still going to make lots of good lumber. Don't get me wrong. The only lumber that's not going to be good is what's on the bottom. In this case, though, because when I caught the mistake, I didn't realize, I just wasn't thinking, obviously. I must have been tired, although it was early in the day. This is still very early in the day. So honestly, I don't think I can give you too many excuses. I should have realized, not only did I have a vertical wedge cut, but I also had a horizontal wedge cut because I left that toe board up for so long. So I cut my first cut my second, cut my third, cut my fourth, took that 6-inch cant off. That one's fine. A little bit of a wedge in the vertical plane when you stand it up. You just take that out and away you go and knock the whole thing down. Every 2x6 is going to be 6 inches wide. That's not an issue. But when I split the second half of that main cant into two 6-inch cants, one of those, the one on the bottom, started at 6 inches, but it was lifted up at the far end, approximately an inch. And so when I got down to the far end, it was only going to be about a 5-inch cant. So what I should have done in that case, if I had realized it, and I did realize I left the toe board up because I did fix the vertical plane. What I should have done is I should have tossed the good cant off the deck, taken the other cant, flipped it down flat, and then cut it down to, 4.5 inches or 4 inches or whatever the customer would want it to be. Then I could have stood them both back up again and taken down a 2x6 and a 2x4 together at the same time. So that's the big mistake that I made. And I have to tell you, that's the only time I've ever done this. And I thought about it a lot when I made this video. I kept thinking, come on, when have you ever done this? I've never done that. I really cannot recall a time where I've ever left the toe board up long enough that I had this situation and then I didn't fix it. It's not that I haven't done it before in terms of leaving the toe board up too long. I think I'd done it the month earlier. It does happen sometimes, usually on these big logs. But I caught it and fixed it. In this case, I didn't fix it. I fixed it in one plane. I didn't fix it in both. So, unfortunately, one of those 2x6-ish cants, every board that came off of there, which was, about 10 of them, would have to be edged down into 2x4s on a table saw later. So, oops, my mistake. Now, before I let you go, I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. I hope you had a wonderful time. It's Black Friday, and I'm not a big Black Friday sale kind of person. I don't run out and go do Black Friday sales myself. But I will tell you that Spreadshirt is having a Black Friday sale, 35% off merch on the Spreadshirt store. And Teespring, if you put LT40 in, you get 15% off. So that's a big deal if you've been thinking about buying some merch, or maybe your wife's going to buy you some for Christmas or something. Maybe point her to my merch store. You can just click on it. In fact, right here in this video, look down below. You're going to see the shirts and the cups and all that kind of stuff. Just click down there. You will see when you click on one of those items, either the 35% off or the LT40 15% off. Hey, take advantage of that while you can. And thanks for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it. Y'all have a great weekend. The old Jarhead out.